I'm Tamara with CCA's Gardenside Chat. Today's Wednesday, so that means that we are going to be doing another kitchen side chat. So today we are going to be talking all about freezing vegetables and fruit, any kind of produce really, and the best way to freeze it so that you can eat it later and it will still taste, hopefully just as fresh. So I've been freezing stuff for a long time. I'm constantly, especially in the summer, either overbuying produce or overgrowing produce or having friends give me produce and things like that. So we're up on that season, which is really exciting, where hopefully produce will be aplenty and we will all pick up maybe too much or we'll maybe grow too much in our backyard. And I just wanted to go over some basic things about being able to freeze your produce so you can use it later. So yeah, so first things first, right now I'm boiling a pot of water. I'm going to be boiling that because one of the biggest reasons why you should freeze produce is so you can keep it and you can use it later. Like for instance, these potatoes that I had, I'll cut them up in cubes. They started sprouting and they were getting a little bit soft and they were on the way out. And I just didn't think I could eat them fast enough. So I thought, you know what, this is perfect, I'm going to cube them up. Basically, I'll probably end up using these for a stew or maybe even for like a hash or something. So I'm going to cube them up and then I'm going to blanch them. So most of the time, you can freeze most things, but they're just not going to maybe have that, they might be mushy and the consistency might be weird. So normally I do try to blanch most of my produce, and I'll kind of go through a list today of like what I think you should blanch and then what you're good to just stick right into the freezer. And then I'll kind of give you some tips and tricks of like how I have done it and the best way that I found being able to keep everything separated so that you can really use it later on in recipes. So first things first, I have this pot of water boiling. So blanching. Blanching is basically that you are going to take that item and you are going to dump the water really quickly. I normally leave it in about 1 to 2 minutes depending on what it is. Now, if I was doing like a full corn on the cob, I would do it for longer. I would probably do it for like 3 or 4 minutes. But like depending on kind of freezing would depend how many minutes you need to blanch it for. So right now I'm going to do just some red skin potatoes. I peeled the peels off. So that's really important to note is that you're going to want to take out seeds, peels, anything that you're not going to be able to eat normally, you're going to take that off. The only difference is like with tomatoes, I wanted to kind of point this out, is like if you're going to freeze tomatoes, when in the blanching process, that skin is going to come off. So you don't need to hand peel these, but things like carrots, potatoes, anything like that, you're going to want to make sure that you take the skin off. You peel them before you go through this process. So I have my little cooking pot at a rolling boil, and you can see it's really hot. So that's exactly what we want. So I'm going to throw this in and I'm going to let it cook for 2 minutes, and I'm going to keep talking to you so you don't have to watch this boil forever. This is really hot, so I'm going to turn it down just a bit. And I have it about halfway full. And then I have one of these little steaming pans. I'm going to put that in because it's going to be a little bit easier. If you don't have one of those, what you can do is you can easily just like a normal colander when you're done with it. So I'm going to pour these in without making a mess. No promises. Yep, it's a mess. It's easy to do in. And then I'm going to put the lid back on and we're just going to let that boil for 1 to 2 minutes. The reason why I put that steamer basket in is for just my ease, but you can just boil it like normally and then pour it over a colander, and then that would be perfect. So we're going to let those potatoes boil for a couple of minutes, and I'm not going to keep track of the time, but I'll kind of eyeball it. So I'm going to let those boil. So basically, blanching, it's hot water, and then you're going to go directly into cold water. So I have my cold water bath right here, ice cold. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that cook, and then afterwards we're going to dunk it right into that ice cold water for like 1 to 2 minutes. And then I'm going to take my cookie sheet, and it's really important to have a cookie sheet or any kind of thing put into the freezer. And you're going to want to spread all of that produce out really evenly and kind of as much as you can. And then we're going to freeze that. And then after that, we're going to kind of par freeze it get it pretty solid to where they're all like kind of little individual pieces, and then we're going to put them into a container and store them. So I want to kind of talk about the different vegetables that you can freeze and things that I've tried to freeze that just didn't work right, and different things that you need to blanch versus not blanching. So blanching, it's going to be anything corn on the cob, broccoli, cauliflower, tomatoes. You're going to blanch them, and then you're going to take those peels off afterwards. Spinach, asparagus, green beans, trim the ends off of them, throw them in. Peas, snow peas, with anything like that, you're going to shell the peas, or with snow peas, you just cut the ends off. You're basically going to want to prep that food item so that you're ready to eat it whenever you get it out of the freezer, so you can cook with it or whatever. The next thing would be like potatoes. You're always going to peel them. Carrots, make sure those are peeled. And then I normally dice it up into whatever size I'm going to use it in later. So like I know a lot of soups and stews and things like that. We eat a lot of like hash, things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and like a lot of stuff, like the potatoes, I just dice it up. Let's see. So all of those need to be blanched. So here's kind of the list that doesn't need to be blanched. So that's going to be bell peppers, onions. You can do either. I personally don't like it because it takes the bite away. Rhubarb and berries. So strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, anything like that. Totally don't need to blanch. Pretty much any fruit. Peaches, bananas. I would not blanch any kind of fruit like that. The only thing I would say is like with cherries, you will not blanch those because they're a fruit. But I would make sure you take the pit out, and sometimes I'll cut them in half. Same with like blueberries. Grapes, you don't need to blanch. The grapes are great. If you've ever had a frozen grape, or like you've made them for your kids, they are so delicious. So highly recommend, especially in the summer. So basically any fruit you're not going to blanch. And then there are some vegetables I've tried, celery being one of them, that I just did not have a good experience with it. So you totally can try it if you want to, but be warned, I haven't had good luck with it. The only time I've had good luck with it is if it's like in a soup, and I freeze that whole soup, then it's been okay, but I feel like the consistency is still a little bit weird. So if you're just tuning in, right now I'm just boiling my water with potatoes in it for just a couple of minutes. I'm blanching them. So we're just going to do that, and then we're going to toss them into this ice water bath. So let's see, what else? So the next step is, I'm going to keep letting this go, but for the next step is like once you get your item out, whether it be green beans or carrots or whatever it is, broccoli, you're going to throw it directly into an ice bath really quickly, cool it down all the way, like 1 to 2 minutes. It depends on the item again. If you're doing like full corn because you got it from your garden, that's going to take longer to boil. It's going to take longer to cool down. Same thing. And then you're going to take a cookie sheet and you're going to spread everything out evenly. So let's watch this. Since we're in live time, unfortunately, I can't make it go faster. So let me check on it, and I'll kind of show you what we're looking for. This is great too if you're going to be like kind of pressed for time, like having people come over. You could do something like this with like, you could go ahead and peel your sweet potatoes, and you could dice them all up. I'm like, I have a sweet potato right here. You could dice them all up and get them ready. You could blanch them and freeze them, and then it could maybe make the process a little bit faster if you're making a recipe like that, something like a hash or something like that. That way when your people come over, it's just a little bit quicker. Well, later when we're allowed to have people come over. Okay, so right now, I do have that steaming basket in there, and that's honestly just for ease for me. Typically you would throw them directly in the water, but the water has risen up here. And so, obviously I'm not looking for cooked. I'm just looking for it to be kind of submerged in that hot water, and then we're going to throw it in the cold water. Okay, so I'm going to give this another minute, and I'm going to turn the heat all the way up. I'm going to get it really, really hot. Let's see. If there's any questions, feel free to ask. I'm not an expert by any means, but I feel like I've done my fair share of trying to save produce. I really hate to throw anything away. It's absolutely the worst. I hate to compost things that I could still be eating. So it's just obviously really important right now for us to use every single thing we can and just not to throw anything out if we can help it. So. Okay, so I think these are pretty good. If we weren't on video right now, I may have given it another minute, but just so you guys don't have to watch me forever, you're going to take those potatoes. Now again, if you don't have one of these, you can just put it straight. You would just take the potatoes out, put it in a colander, just like you would like spaghetti. And then you can jump them right into that ice water bath. Now turn this off, but it is still hot, hot, hot. So stick it over the side. Okay, so we got that ice water bath going. And so I just threw my potatoes in there. And all I'm going to do is I just really want to bring the temp down quick. Because it's really important for that, especially with potatoes. I have tried to like cheat the system in the potatoes and then freeze them. And they were fine, like nothing bad happened. It's just the consistency, the weird. And especially if you're looking to like cook with them later on, I feel like the consistency would maybe change the recipe. So that's just a note, just in case you decided like, hey, maybe I don't want to. Especially if you're trying to get them crispy again, air fryer, and sometimes I'll throw potatoes in there. So like if I was going to freeze these and then try to put them in the air fryer, it's really important to blanching, because if not, I've had the problem where they're just a little bit mushy and that's not very fun. So, okay, get my other stuff out of the way here. Oh, and then the onions and bell peppers. So sometimes I'll freeze these, especially if I have bell peppers that are going bad and onions that are getting a little bit soft and they're starting to sprout. I'll chop those up like that, and then I will freeze these. So this is one of the things you do not have to blanch. So I will go ahead and just lay these out on a cookie sheet individually, and you can mix them if you want, different color bell peppers, whatever. Mix them all out on that cookie sheet, and then you're just going to basically freeze it for a couple of hours until they're really rock solid, and then you're going to put that into a container so you can store it. So that could be a mason jar, that could be a reusable Ziploc bag, that could be a Rubbermaid container, whatever you've got. Any kind of container, any kind of Ziploc bag. We just want to make sure that we get all the air out. And so we just don't want it to get freezer burned, because that's really what kind of kills a frozen food. So, okay, so kind of trying to buy some time. So typically you would blanch it for 2 to 3 minutes, depending on what it was, and then you're going to put it in an ice bath for 2 to 3 minutes, depending on what it was. Basically, I'm just trying to get these potato chunks down to like a really cool temperature quick. I'm taking them from scalding hot to ice cold really fast to lock everything in there, so whenever you cook with these, the consistency isn't super weird. Okay, feel in here, and I did wash my hands before. Okay, so they're like pretty ice cold. So I think we're good with these. So now this is the fun part, trying to fish these out without getting a bunch of ice cubes. Okay, so you're going to take your cookie tray, your cookie sheet, whatever you want to call it, and you're going to fish out all the potatoes. I have done it where I dry them off, but honestly I don't think there's a huge difference. I would definitely shake the water off, but it takes a lot more time to sit here and have to dry every single piece off. So the only thing I will say that's really important here, and this is just going to save you later, is making sure, and I'm going to turn so you can see it, making sure the pieces are spread out. I don't know if you can see that or not, but just if we put them all together, what's going to happen is it's going to freeze all together in like one giant chunk, and then it's going to be hard for you to put in the container. It's going to be hard. It's just a whole thing. So making them kind of a little more of like individual pieces is going to be a lot easier. So when they kind of par frozen, you can take them and you can put them in any kind of container and then keep them that way. And then so whenever I want to make my potato, either my hash or whatever I'm going to make with these, I just go. The one thing I did want to know, I always try to make sure that I mark down the date of when I froze the thing, the item, and what it is. Because if you get too much stuff in your freezer, sometimes you're going, what is this? Especially if it's like a mystery bag or like a mystery mason jar, and you're like, okay, that kind of looks like sweet potatoes, but I don't know. Is it sweet potatoes? Is it pumpkin? Is it butternut squash soup that I made? Like, so I always try to mark it on. Those are nice because you can just do it right on the, like with the Sharpie or whatever. But if you're using something else, I know with like those plastic containers, I have done where I've written on it with like a marker and just scrubbed it off after. So it is kind of fun to try not to get all these ice cubes. You can drain off the ice cubes. I just didn't want to keep going back and forth. So essentially, this is what you're going to be looking at. I'm not going to do all these because I don't want you all to have to wait for this. but you want it to be pretty spread out here and pretty even, and kind of spread them all out to where they all are kind of their own individual thing. And then what I'll do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it into the freezer for 1 to 2 hours. And then when I take them in like individual little guys, so that then I can take all those little individual frozen nuts and I can put them into either a bag, a mason jar container, whatever. So then your next step is like freeze it for 1 to 2 hours, set an alarm on your phone, go out, take the dogs out, do whatever you gotta do, and then come back. They're gonna be individually frozen, almost like when you get them from the store. You're gonna take all of that, you're gonna put that in an airtight container. It is important that you put it in an airtight container just for that freezer burn. Sometimes if you have like a beeswax, sometimes if I put it into like a Tupperware or something, or like a glass container, I'll put a beeswax over it, or you could do plastic wrap if you have that, just to keep it all down, because basically just the air and the moisture, the air is really what like makes it go bad in the freezer and makes that freezer burn. Freezer burn won't hurt you. I've definitely eaten stuff that's freezer burnt, but it just doesn't taste very good. So let's just save ourselves. We don't want to eat nasty stuff. We want to eat good stuff. So yeah, that is literally it. It's super easy to do, especially if you have like a lot of extra onions, a lot of like extra things that you just didn't get a chance to use them. I know sometimes we just have busy weeks here, and then I just go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that all the potatoes are sprouting. Like, look at these, they're all sprouting. People say not to use sprouted potatoes. I've never had a problem with them. I wouldn't use them if they're really, really soft, and obviously I cut the eyes off. But I'm not an expert by any means, but this is just my own personal opinion. But I think it's fine to use. These were sprouted potatoes, and then, we'll eat them, and they'll taste delicious. So thank you for stopping by this Kitchen Side Chat. Again, my name is Tamara, and I work at CCUA, and we are just so happy to be able to keep putting out this content for y'all. If you have anything that you would like to learn about, please tell us, and we'd be happy to find somebody that knows about it, or we'll learn ourselves, and then we'll teach you all. So thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, or you want to know about our other content, please visit our website at Columbia Center for Urban Agriculture.org, or urbanag.org, or our Facebook page. We do have a lot of cool stuff going on this week. We actually have, we weren't able to do our big fundraiser called Empty Bowls this year, unfortunately, due to COVID-19, but we are having an online fundraiser. So we are actually doing a tool, selling all of the bowls that were donated from all our sponsors. So if you would like to purchase a bowl, make a donation, and then we will actually hand deliver those bowls to your house at the end of this week and then next week. So, and there's also another little fun thing that we're going to drop off with the bowls. So we really appreciate your support. All of the money from the bowls is going to go to our program, Planting for the Pantry, and basically all of the produce that we grow at the agriculture park, and that's normally around 17,000 pounds, it all goes to Central Pantry. So we are really, especially right now, we really need to get this food to the pantry. People really need to eat, and they need to eat well this year. So please help us, and we really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day.